How's it going? I'm Travis, the Weekend Golf Guy. Thanks so much for watching. Hey, we're talking fantasy golf predictions for the Honda Classic 2020. That's right, DraftKings. Now, we're not talking betting odds or any of that crazy stuff. We're just talking DraftKings. I'm going to give you guys my picks. I run simulated models. They spit out some people. We hope they do good so we can get some cash in our pockets, and we hope that you enjoy the show. If you do, go ahead and like our page. It would be super helpful, very much appreciated. Yeah, let's get right into it. Here's how we're going to do this. We are going to talk about, just very briefly, we're going to discuss the past champion, what the score was, and how much money they win. Then we're going to go right into the golfers broken down by salary. So we've got the high rollers, the mid-rangers, and the belows. And we're going to be talking about who I think is going to do the best in each of those sections. We're not going to talk every single golfer that's in the field. There's 144. We don't have time for that, and you don't have time for that. So we're just going to get to the ones that I think are going to play well. Hopefully they do. If you have a comment and you're watching right now, go ahead and share it with us. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and display it right on the screen. Let's have a conversation about who you think is going to do good. If you think that my picks are just absolute trash, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. So yeah, let's jump right into it. Boom. All right, here we go. The past winner here is Keith Mitchell. He shot a 9 under. This year, there's 144 players in the field, and there's a $1.26 million purse. That's a ton of cash. Man, it would be awesome. I mean, if I could play golf like that and win that kind of money, that'd be pretty sweet. But I can't because I'm a hack. So, yeah, let's jump right into high rollers. Now, we're going to go through every single player on each of these pages, and we're going to talk about some of the positive things, some of the risks. We hope to provide you some information that maybe you didn't previously have. And here we go. We're going right into it with our high rollers. First and foremost, I was really surprised by this pick. I'm not sure why DraftKings has him in such a high salary bracket, but Tommy Fleetwood. Now you're going to notice some numbers in the upper right-hand corner of each of these players. That's where they ranked on my model. So as we go through the high rollers, the mid-rangers, and the belows, you're going to be able to see where exactly they ranked in my model. And Tommy Fleetwood, in this case, was 23, 11.6K. I'm not really sure. Again, I was pretty shocked that he was kind of at this price range. He didn't play last year in this particular event. In 2018, he placed 4th. That's great. He's coming off a tie 18th at WGC Mexico and a tie 11th at the Dubai Desert Classic. A few things I really, really liked about Tommy here is that he ranks 100 and, well, this is something that's maybe a little bit unsettling. He ranks 101 in driving accuracy and 3rd in driving distance. Now, bombers can play well at PGA National, and before I get too far into this, typically we do a course breakdown, but I've added a link to someone who does a much better job at breaking down the course hole by hole, lots of statistics. It's in the link to this video. If you see it, check it out. Subscribe to Gary's Substack there. It's pretty awesome. He does it every single week. Very much appreciate him letting us share that with all of you, the watchers. Yeah, awesome. So back to Tommy Fleetwood, ranking 23rd in our statistical model, 3rd in driving distance. I'm not sure that it's going to help him if he can't find the fairway. A lot of the big hitters here have to lay back. They have to kind of tone it down a little bit. Being 3rd in driving distance, maybe not a necessarily great thing here. It's not going to set you apart from other players. He's 10th in green and regulation. That's going to be really important. Shots gained approach here is going to drastically impact how a player plays this week, how they come out on top. If you're not familiar with PGA National, I know we're not doing a course breakdown, but this is a unbelievably difficult golf course. It's got the hardest 2-3 stretches, top 10 hardest stretches of golf on the PGA Tour. They have the bear trap. If you watched it, people are hitting golf balls in the water. I think they said over 1,000. That's insane. This is a incredibly difficult golf course that could become more difficult on Saturday when the winds pick up, and we're going to see how that impacts some of our players. Tommy Fleetwood is an even-keeled player, and by that I mean as things change, as conditions change, his ability to score well doesn't necessarily change up or down. He's pretty even-keeled. So I do like that about him. I still don't agree with the price range here. I'm probably not in on Tommy Fleetwood. He came 23rd in my model again, and wind's not impacting him. So as the wind picks up over the weekend, he's not necessarily going to be impacted by that. However, if he makes it to the weekend at this price range, I'm certainly fading Tommy Fleetwood. What do you think? Is he going to play well? I'd love to hear your opinions in the comments section. We're going to talk about it. If you have any questions, leave them in that comments section, and we're going to talk about it. All right, moving right on to Brooks Koepka. All right, Brooks Koepka, 11.2K. Now, he's coming off of 43rd at the Genesis. Obviously, there's some question about him. Is his ability where it needs to be? He's coming off of surgery. He had a tie 17th at the Saudi International. At this course particularly, last year, 2019, he had a tie second. 2018, he didn't play. He was cut in 2017 in a tie 26th in 2016. So he's got some course history here. He's certainly got the pedigree to put it all together. And he ranked 22nd in my simulation. I'm probably out on Brooks as well. Now, I may be eating my own words and completely regret that later on. But 22nd in my model at this price range, I got to fade somebody like that. There are other people here, Ricky and Gary particularly, who we're going to get to, who I like a little more. Here's some good things about him. Brooks Koepka putts really well on Bermuda. He grew up in Florida. He lives in Florida. He lives in Jupiter, which is just 20 minutes away from PGA National. And one thing that particularly stood out to me in the statistics is as the course gets harder, Brooks stands out amongst the players here. So I think that's important. Now, wind doesn't necessarily help his game. That could be a concern come Saturday, Sunday. We're talking 16 to 20 mile an hour winds. That's pretty significant when you're talking so much water. There's just a ton of water on this golf course. We're actually going to be playing it on a live simulated golf on our True Golf Simulator here on Saturday. I'm going to play the second round leader, so you guys are going to be able to see what it's like on the simulator. And of course, if you're watching on TV, you're going to be able to see all those balls going in the water. It's pretty crazy, but wind doesn't necessarily help Brooks at this price point, even with his pedigree, even with, he's a major champion. He's a great player. I'm out on Brooks. So he came up pretty decent in our simulations, but I like other people better, including this next guy, Ricky Fowler, 34th in our model. He had a tie 2 here. He was cut in 2018 and first place in 17, and then a 6th place in 2016. He knows how to get it done at this golf course. Now, Ricky has made a name for himself for failing to finish tournaments, but he's won 5 of them. So, we can't take that away from him. I think he's going to do really well this week at 10.8K. I like him a lot better than Tommy Fleetwood or Brooks Koepka. And he shot 66 here many times. I mean, he can go low. This is a guy that can make birdies here. -9, -10 at the end of the week isn't that crazy. So if you can get some birdies in there, avoid those triple bogeys or double bogeys, you're going to be in good shape here. And I would have to guess that his ownership is going to be lower than some of these other people here, just because he's gained such a reputation for not being able to close it out. Right or wrong, that is what he's gained. Yeah, I think I'm in on Ricky this week. Lots of people are not playing him. I hope lots of people don't play him. I'd love to have a 8% ownership. I'd be very happy with that. Some other good things about Ricky: he putts really well on Bermuda, and he does the best in the first and the last round. So if he makes it to the weekend, he can climb up that leaderboard. If he's in contention come Saturday, watch out. It could be awesome. I'd love to see him win here. He's another player that Florida is his home. Now, he plays out of California as his hometown. So when you see him introduced on the tee, you're going to be like, oh man, Travis, what the heck? He's introduced out of California, but he lives in Florida, like so many of these players. And we're going to keep talking about each of those that live in Florida. I think that there is a significant, there's a significant advantage to playing and living somewhere. Awesome. I'm checking comments here as well. If you have a comment, leave it. I'd love to hear from you. Rickie Fowler, we're in on him in his past results, which we didn't touch in. Tie 37th at Waste Management. Now, he was right on the edge of making the cut, and then he had a couple nice rounds, but he was cut at the Farmers Insurance. So a little bit wobbly, a lot of question about Rickie Fowler. Again, that's why I'm all in on him this week. In this range anyways, him and our next guy, Gary Woodland, 10.3K. He tied 12th at WGC Mexico. That's a pretty good result. Tied 40th at the Waste Management. He also was cut at the Farmers Insurance Open. In 2019 at PGA National for the Honda Classic, he placed tied for 36. He was tied for 49th in 18 and tie 217, tie 61. Out of this group, out of this range, the high rollers, he's the only person in this range who has made the cut every single time over the past 4 years. And he's the lowest valued player. I think that's crazy. I think this is a name notoriety thing. I do not necessarily think that this is a Gary Woodland thing. Like, he doesn't have the same name that Rickie does. Rickie's super popular. Brooks, obviously popular. Tommy Fleetwood, again, not sure why he's up there. But in this range, I think Gary Woodland, even though he's a U.S. Open champion, is probably the lowest recognizable name here. Now, he placed 6th in my model, and I actually predict him to be the overall winner for this. I'll probably be betting him in betting odds, and we're going to talk a little bit about that later, but really like Gary Woodland, all in on him. My concern is that he's going to be pretty heavily owned in this group. I think other people also see through it. Those players, those people who play DraftKings a lot, I think they're going to have Gary Woodland somewhere up in the 13-14% ownership range. The only risk I see about Gary Woodland as I was going through statistics is his par 3 scoring in his fairways gains. He's best off the tee. He's 40th in driving accuracy, 73% green in regulation, and he's 40th in the PGA for stroke gained approach. Those are all pretty good numbers. His putter was pretty good at the WGC Mexico. He gained almost a full stroke on the field for putting. And he picks up strokes across the board in all conditions. He's very similar to Tommy Fleetwood in that way, that he doesn't necessarily waver too much in his scoring when conditions change. It seems like he's pretty comfortable adapting to those things. I think that, for me, solidifies all in on Gary Woodland. He's definitely going to be in a couple of the lineups that I've got. Switching over here to our mid-rangers. So we've got Daniel Berger, and as you can see right there in the upper right-hand corner next to his name, he placed first in my model at 8.9K. I don't know how you cannot play this guy. Now, also, side note, as I look at this picture of him and as I keep looking at it, I keep mistaking him for Justin Timberlake. So I've got a little note on my notes over here. He's the Justin Timberlake of the PGA. He was born in Florida. He lives in Florida, and he went to FSU. I mean, the guy knows how to play on Bermuda. He knows how courses are in that area. I think as you go region to region, courses change. You see people who play really good on West Coast swings. You see people in the Northeast like Keegan Bradley from Vermont playing well in the Northeast. And you've got a guy like Daniel Berger who is a Florida native playing in Florida. I mean, how do you go wrong with that? Another thing that kind of stood out to me opposed to these other people who also live in Florida, he's a single guy. I don't know if that impacts any way his ability to play well. I would think I'd be able to be focused. I don't necessarily have to run home. There's all these things that go along with not being single that could impact him. So I think Daniel Berger playing really well. He's also an extremely good wind player. He gains 1.8 strokes on the field when it's windy, and he's made 5 consecutive cuts. That's pretty awesome. He's on a good streak. And again, he's one of those players, I don't think that he has the name recognition because he's only won twice. 2016, 2017 is when he won. So he's kind of cooled off since then. He's been hiding in the backgrounds. And his past results here, 5th at AT&T Pro-Am which is great top 10 finish, a 9th in the Waste Management Phoenix Open, and 29th at the American Express. He's trending pretty good. You walk it backwards, 29th, 9th, 5th. Could this be the week that he emerges for his third victory? I sure hope so. I'm all in on Daniel Berger as well. So Gary Woodland, Daniel Berger, definitely going to be part of my core team on DraftKings. What do you guys think? Are you playing these players? I'm not sure if you are. Let me know if you disagree, if you agree with Daniel Berger. Next, Corey Conners. He is gaining popularity pretty quickly. He's from Ontario. Interesting thing, I was just up there in Ontario, enjoying Niagara Falls, living in New York. It's not too far away. So the family and I were there. That's actually why we missed our fantasy golf predictions last week. But also, he's a twin. Corey Conners is a twin. Now, he would be an ugly girl. I don't know what his sister looks like, but he'd be an ugly girl. So 8.2K coming off of WGC Mexico. He got 50th the Genesis. He was cut in Waste Management Phoenix Open, tie 45. His past tournament history here, he didn't play in 2019. He had a tie 59 and 18. Didn't play 17 or 16. So he's got a little bit of course experience, which I think is going to weigh heavily on players' ability to shoot low here. If you walk onto this golf course and you've never made it through the bear trap and you've got all those people, you're not necessarily sure how you're going to react. He has some experience here. He comes out second in my rank. It's interesting because he hasn't played really, really great since Hawaii, where he had a tie 12. So maybe he had too much fun in Hawaii. But stroke gained approach, he's 22nd on the PGA Tour. He's 15th in stroke gain off the tee, and he plays well tee to green. I think that's going to be a big factor here. His ownership has been fading in GPP. He's went from 14% to 9.4% and 3.3% at WGC Mexico. I think this is a good time to get in on Corey Conners at a low ownership, and you can, maybe capitalize on him coming back. And let's not forget that he's won at 2019 at the Valero. So this is a guy that knows how to do it. Maybe struggling a little bit right now. Hopefully he's kind of making a resurgence here. Yeah, let's see. So he's not untested. That's the thing that I really want to kind of put across to you, is that he's won. He knows how to do it. He can do it here. Why not? Why not him? All right, Billy Horschel. I think Billy Horschel is going to be really, really popular this week. I'm kind of on the edge if I'm going to play him or not. 9.2K. He's 9th. He got 9th at WGC Mexico, 9th at the Waste Management Phoenix Open. 2 top 10s. That's really good. His past tournament performance here in the Honda, he tied 16th in 2019. He was cut in 2018, a tie 4th in 17th, and a tie 8th in 2016. So he's got the name notoriety. He's got the course history. He's played well here before. He's a good putter on Bermuda grass. He gains over a half a stroke on average on the field. He's coming off 2 top 10s. He's from Florida, went to college in Florida, and he plays from Florida, unlike Ricky, who lives in Florida, plays from California. I don't understand that. He's 45th in greens in regulation, going to be really important here. And he's a 5-time winner on the PGA Tour. So he knows how to get it done. He's one of those guys that you got to go with him. I think Billy, even though he's going to be heavily owned, could play really, really well this week, if not win in this range at 9.2K. I may even play Billy over the high rollers, over those top rollers in a couple lineups. What do you guys think? He's 4th in DK points as well. That's something to note. And I think his form kind of outweighs his past results for me here. With the missing cut, you may think, oh, he can't. A lot of people missed the cut in 2018, a lot of big names. So his current form is pretty good. It's going to outweigh that doubt in my mind for the 2018 cut that he missed. I'm in on Billy. I'm all in. Moving down to Viktor Hovland, the now PGA champion, finally getting it done. Man, I didn't have him. I didn't bet him last week, but I'm happy that he won at the Puerto Rico Open. He's coming off that first. He had a tie 38th at the AT&T Pro-Am, but he missed the cut at the Waste Management Phoenix Open. That is a little bit alarming to me, only because the Waste Management, there were so many people, the crowds were big, and I had him. I played him in that tournament. I expected him to do well. He didn't do well. So he has no tournament history here. That's also something that can be scary. And people tend not to play past or previous week's winners. For that reason, I'm actually taking the opposite side of the coin here. I'm going in on Viktor Hovland. He's played really well. If he can just kind of fight or combat the wind, he doesn't necessarily play well in the wind. If he can do good this week, that'd be awesome. I think he's going to be less owned. That's another factor in why I'll be playing him in a couple of my lineups. And if you've listened to DFS podcast or vlogs or anything like that, you've probably heard this stat. But if you haven't, it's funny because no player that has got their first win at the Puerto Rico Open has ever went on to win again on the PGA Tour. So Tony Finau is a prime example of that. He hasn't won yet. They call him Big Ricky because Ricky can't close it out. But will that be the case with Viktor Hovland? I hope not. I hope he does well this week, and I hope he wins again in the very near future. He's awesome to watch. I like the young group of players coming up through the PGA, and he's definitely one of those guys that you got to pull for. So, all right, he's got no course history, and honestly, I might feel a little bit better about playing him if he just got like top 5 last week. I keep hitting this thing here. If he got top 5 last week, maybe I'd even feel a little better about playing him, but I'm still in on Viktor Hovland. How can you not be? All right, here we go. And we're going into our next players. That's going to be the Anbelos. All right. Here we go. In our Anbelos, these are the players that are under 8K. Coming in third, Maverick McNeely in third place. He's in third place in our simulated models. We run statistical analysis, crunch a bunch of numbers, and out it spits a bunch of players that it thinks is going to do well based on our inputs. Maverick McNeely third, and at 7.5K, how can you go wrong? You could own every one of these players in this range and build a really solid lineup, in my opinion. All right, so he had a tie 27th at the Puerto Rico Open. Not really outstanding, but that's still pretty respectable. The player field there obviously wasn't like the WGC Mexico, but he had a tie 5th at AT&T Pebble Beach. That can be a really tough tournament to play because it's slow rounds. It just goes on and on and on. It's not necessarily fun for people to watch, but I can imagine it's even more gruesome for those people who have to play in it. So the fact that he could get it done there at Pebble Beach in the wind, mind you, I think that's pretty good. And he's never played this course. We have no history, 19, 18, 17, or 16. We've got nothing on him. But over the past 5 tournaments, he's gained 5.7 strokes on the field, almost 6 strokes. That's really good. The putter has been hot. He's 21st on the PGA Tour for strokes gained putting, 9th for one putt percent at 43%. So 1 putt percentage, he's 43% and 9th overall on the PGA Tour. So he's under 10% ownership, which I think is going to be key. 9.5% at the AT&T, 7.7 at the Farmers, and 5.2 at the American Express. I think he's one of those guys, you get him in your lineup, maybe have some lower ownership, and you're going to capitalize that in the DraftKings environment. I don't know that I would bet him in an outright win or in the betting odds. Probably not going to play this guy, but I'd love to have him in a lineup in DraftKings. Definitely playing him in a couple. He's 8th on the PGA Tour for sand saves, 15th overall for scrambling. I think that will play a factor here. And he plays well in the wind, gaining almost 2 strokes on the field. That is awesome. All right, here we go. Moving on to Tom Hoge, 6.9K. That's super low. That's what the Anbelos are. Super low Anbelos. All right, tie 60th at the AT&T, tie 25th at Waste Management, Phoenix Open, and a 5th at the Farmers, and tie 6th at the American Express. So kind of trending the opposite way that you want to see a guy going. Have we missed out on our ability to play Tom Hoge? I don't think so. I think he's going to do really well here. Plays poorly in the wind. It might not be a concern on Thursday and Friday, but if he makes it into the weekend and the wind starts picking up 16 to 20 miles an hour, certainly could be a concern at how he closes out the weekend. I think he'll make the weekend. I don't know how he'll play in the weekend. I hope he does well. He's 5th in scrambling. He's a risky player at this course. He's got hot for a while, 5 consecutive cuts. And yeah, I mean, this is maybe a little bit of a riskier pick than some of the others. I don't know if I would play him over Maverick or over our next player, Matthew Naismith, but I'll probably sprinkle him in here and there. Did really well in our modeling. So it's difficult. I always find myself kind of stuck between two places. Do I go with my intuition and my gut based off of a player? Do I like them or not? Or do I follow what the numbers say? And I always find myself kind of stuck between picking one over the other. What do you guys do? Do you go off of gut players? Do you play your instincts, or do you play based off of statistical analysis? Or do you have like a mashup type mentality like I do? It's kind of hard to be in between there. I think one of these tournaments, I just need to stick to the numbers. Don't worry about what I actually think about the player, and just go for numbers only and see how it works out. Maybe it'll do pretty good. Moving on to our next guy, ranked 5th overall in my model, Matthew Naismith at 7.2K, coming off of tie 6th at Puerto Rico Open, tie 11th at the AT&T Pro-Am. No course history here. He's 5th overall in my simulation. He's made 7 consecutive cuts. That's awesome. Will this be the time when he goes back to missing the cut? I hope not. That would suck. He shot 66 and 67 over the weekend at the Puerto Rican Open. That's pretty awesome. He's 31st in driving accuracy, which I really like here. He's from South Carolina, so he's, it's South Carolina, but that's Southern golf to me. It's kind of all grouped together. He hasn't won on the PGA Tour yet, unlike some of these other players. This might be his week. When scoring is tough, he has a difficult time playing as well as others. So as conditions change, maybe that will impact him. That's our only risk here. But I think we're going to have a low ownership on this guy, under 5% over the past 4 events. So maybe a good time if you have somebody in that high rollers class that's going to be heavily owned and you need some lower ownership guy. This may be the perfect fit for your lineup. I'm not sure. I hope it is. And we've got our last player in this section of the Anbelos. We've got 4 more Anbelos coming up as well, because they statted out so well in my model that I couldn't only pick 4. Now, if you've watched our previous episodes, I usually have like 5, and each I have 5 mid-range, 5 Anbelos, but we're actually going to have 8 Anbelos this week. In our last one on this page, ranking 7th in our model, 7K, is Cameron Davis. He had a tie 27th at the Puerto Rico Open, tie 38th at AT&T, tie 36th at Farmer Insurance, and tie 29th at the Career Builder. Now, he actually played here and made the cut last year with a tie 59th. He's seen the course. That's something. When you're digging down into this range and you're in 6K, 7K territory, you look for anything that gives you a competitive edge over the other players that may not have seen the course. This is a guy who's seen it. He's not a great putter on Bermuda. That could impact him, but he plays well in the wind, extremely well, in fact, gaining 2.3 strokes on the field, and he plays really good in difficult conditions. This course is difficult, and with that little bit of experience, he may be able to turn it up. I hope he can. Again, he's a player that doesn't have any victories on the PGA Tour yet. I specify yet because it's going to happen. He's 5th in strokes gained off the tee as well. Also a very positive stat. And 7th in DK points. You're playing DraftKings. You need guys to get points for you. That's the entire objective. So for that reason, Cameron Davis, probably going to be one of my core players this week. Combined low ownership with 7th in DK points. Good off the tee. And in difficult conditions, he plays well. Can't go wrong, in my opinion. Hey, what do you guys think? Leave some comments here below. And if you happen to not be able to leave a comment, for some reason, maybe you catch the show later. You might be at work right now. I mean, it's 6 o'clock on the East Coast, but maybe you're not quite out of work yet. If you leave a comment later after this video ends, we'll be sure to respond to you as well. So don't worry if you missed out. No problem. All right, moving on to our next players here. We've got Harry Higgs, 7.3K. He ranked 8th overall in my model. He's coming off a tie 18 at the AT&T, 25th at the Waste Management Phoenix Open, and a tie 9th at the Farmers. No course history here. 8th in my simulation rank. He was top 20. Oh, excuse me. I think he does have some course history here. It looks like I just forgot to put it in here. But let's take a look at that right now. I've still got that that pulled up here. Ah, shoot. I don't have it pulled up. Harry Higgs, what is your history here? I think he's top 20 and 19 stroke gained. Oh, excuse me. I'm looking at my notes there. A little bit confusing here. Here's what I know. He's come off of 3 consecutive cuts made. That's good. He's one of those players that's even-keeled, a lot like Tommy Fleetwood, when conditions change. So as the wind picks up, it doesn't necessarily impact him as much as other players. That can be a really positive thing. The risk is that he's not trending great for stroke gained approach. And if you watch any shows like this, you're going to know that that's super important at this course. So he's one of those risky players, but he's got a lot of popularity. His par 4 scoring, there's 7 par 4s here, and his par 4 scoring is excellent. So I think he's going to be a little heavily owned, maybe for me to play him in every lineup, but I'm going to have to play him in 1 or 2. Awesome. Moving on. Harold Varner III, 7.7K, coming off a tie 13th at the Genesis. I actually expected him to play a little better at that tournament. He was cut at the AT&T, cut at Waste Management, and cut at Farmers. So, and we haven't seen him since the Genesis. So that can be a little bit scary when you're talking about a guy in this range. Maybe some of our other players are better in your lineup. I'll probably have Harold in one of mine. I really thought he would close it out at the Genesis. I thought he was going to do well, but kind of crumbled there round 4. So he's one of the guys that has course history here. And his course history isn't excellent, but he knows the golf course. So tie 51 in 2019, tie 72 in 2018, and a tie 57th in 2017. Now, he was cut in 2016. Maybe a little bit of a learning experience for this guy. He lives in Florida, and he struggles with the wind just a little bit. He's not terrible, but he's not great in the wind like some of the other players we've seen who are gaining strokes when the wind picks up. He's 11th overall in stroke gained off the tee. That's awesome. In his stroke gained total, he's top 20. That's another really positive attribute. Gained 4.5 strokes in the field at the Genesis in approach. So I just got done saying stroke gained approach is going to be crucial here. He played really well with his irons. He was striking the ball really well. 34th in greens in regulation in 2020 on the tour. A little bit shaky putting, but putting is one of those stats that, I don't know, one week a guy can turn it on. He can start making a couple 1-putts from 30 feet, and he's at the top of the leaderboard ahead by 5 or something crazy. So a little bit shaky putting, not necessarily a huge concern for me. He's had a couple of rounds in the 60s here at PGA National. And again, low ownership alert. 2% at the Genesis, 3.8% at ATT, and 6.8% at the Waste Management Phoenix Open. So might be one of those guys you capitalize. He's had 3 missed cuts. People see that, and they're concerned. I like his past course knowledge here, and I like that he was able to play well at the Genesis. I think his stats actually were impacted a little bit by round 4. So I'm in on Harold Varner III, probably one of the guys I like. Maybe Harris English, I might like him just a little more than Harold. We're going to get to Harris here in just a couple people. Adam Long, you might not know a lot about this guy. 6.8K, ranked 10th overall in my statistical model. He was cut last year, but again, he saw the golf course. He had 2 rounds under his belt. He knows what to expect going in. Hopefully he prepared this weekend. A par 4 scoring, he's ranked 27th for 400 to 450 yard par 4 holes. That's really awesome. Top 60 in strokes gained approach. Not too shabby there. 22nd in greens in regulation on the tour at 70.41%. That's 50th overall. He's 23rd in driving accuracy. I really like the driving accuracy stat. You got to get it done this week. He's not a great wind player. I keep talking about the weather over the weekend, and that's a concern for me. Coming off of these past 2 tournaments, he's struggled around the green a little bit, but he's had 9 consecutive cuts the year prior. So 2019, he made 9 cuts in a row. So we've got a little bit of, I guess, concern there for this year, but he's able to make cuts. We've seen it happen last year, and he's one of those guys. He lives in Jupiter, Florida, 20 minutes away from this golf course. So he's had a victory on the tour as well, so he's not unfamiliar with getting it done. This was the Desert Classic, and he beat Phil and Adam Hadwin in that tournament. So he knows how to get it done. Shouldn't be scared of picking him this week. A little bit of question out there. Obviously, course history, you look at that cut, maybe a little bit concerning for you. Not necessarily that concerning for me. Again, if you have a comment, leave it for us. We're almost done with our and belows, and I may just be having a connection problem, but I'm not seeing any of my comments here. Let me hop out and hop back in. I keep refreshing. Let me see if I can load the comments and get these back up. Hey, if you have a comment and this episode is over, but you still want to talk fantasy golf, leave a comment in the comment section. I'd be happy to reply. Tell us what you think about our picks. Are you going to be playing any of the same people we are, or are you going to be fading what we're saying because you just totally disagree? I'm not offended. Not a problem. All right, here we go. Moving on down. Talked about Adam Long, but here we go. We got Harris English rounding out our and belows with a 11th in our model overall. He's coming off a tie 16th at the Waste Management Phoenix Open, tie 71st at the Farmers, and a tie 48th at the American Express. Now, his past tournament history here is trending in the right direction for me. 19th, he was at 12th. He top 15, he placed 12th, 18th, 33rd, and 2017th, 60. Now, this is another thing. His ownership is fading, so we've got an ownership alert. From 20% at the Farmers to 6% at Waste Management Phoenix Open. He plays well in all conditions. He gains most strokes on the field when it's windy. That's a really good sign for me if he makes it into the weekend. In the last 5 tournaments, he's been recovering from a kind of so-so strokes gained approach. It looks like he's had a little bit of woes there. But he picked up 0.7 on the field overall in stroke gain. So he's second on the tour for greens in regulation in 2020. A really positive stat. He putts best on Bermuda. He plays well at challenging tracks like we have this week. Now, he's from Georgia, lives in Georgia, went to school in Georgia. He's the Georgia Peach of the PGA, but very similar golf to Florida, so not really concerned about him playing somewhere different. If you look at a guy from California coming to Florida, Bermuda grass is way different from POA. Putting is different. It's less bouncy. Everything reacts different. So he knows how to play on Bermuda, knows how to putt on Bermuda grass, and he's a 2-time PGA winner. Now, granted, that was from 2013 and 2014, so it's been a while since we've seen success from him on the PGA Tour, but he knows how to get it done. That is in our muscle memory to be able to get that done. If you have a win, I mean, he's going to be able to close it out eventually. I don't think he's one of those guys. I don't think he's peaked yet. Now, he's 27th on tour for stroke gain approach, and he's 16th in stroke gain total on the tour in 2020. The risk for me here, the only concern that I see is his driving accuracy. Not his distance. He can hit it a long ways, but his driving accuracy, a little bit of a concern for me here. If he starts getting wayward, putting himself out of position to strike his irons well and get on the green, it's brutal. The water is everywhere on this course. I think it's like 15 holes have water. So don't quote me on that. That's going off of my memory. So listen, hey, thanks so much for watching. A couple closing notes here. If you're not into DraftKings, we're going to be having another discussion about Thrive Fantasy. They've partnered with us and they want to give you some free money. So I'm going to tell you exactly how to do that. Those are proposition bets, not lineups. They take the guesswork and all the statistical analysis out of fantasy golf, rather. That's Thrive Fantasy. You can use our code if you're interested in it right now. That is WGG10 to get $10 free when you put in $10 onto Thrive Fantasy. We're going to be doing a live broadcast just like this one, where I actually walk you through the app, show you what prop bets are all about. Very, very different from a DraftKings environment. I actually like the change of pace, but we're going to be talking about that either Thursday or Friday. Also, we're going to be playing PGA National on our Tour Links putting green and our True Golf Simulator. We have PGA National. I'm going to be playing the second round scorecard of the leader. So whoever leads, whoever goes low, I'm going to challenge them on our True Golf Simulator. You guys can watch live, comment, swing heckles, very welcome. Any advice, also appreciated. And then if you can't watch on YouTube or Facebook, we are also doing a podcast. You can find us on Stitcher, Apple, iTunes Store, anywhere podcasts are popular. You're going to be able to get this episode when you're driving to or from work. Recap what we're saying. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Again, I'm Travis, the Weekend Golf Guy. I very much appreciate you watching here, and have a great one. Until next time, until you join us, hey, hit them straight. Thanks so much.
Just